sharing our stories connects us. Listen and be connected. Join us for the conversation meeting weekly at the intersection of community and culture. Hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Or good afternoon, as the case may be, as it is just a little after 12 noon on Wednesday. It's hump day, it's midweek, and we are the conversation. You're listening to WMNF, 88.5 FM Tampa, WMNF.org. I'm one of your hosts, Mario Nunez. As always, I'm seated alongside my broadcast partner. There he is.
Joe King Carter, good afternoon. And you
Joe.
always say good morning, and I understand it because it feels like we're here in the morning, doesn't it?
Well, we are here in the morning. We get here in the morning hours.
Yeah.
And I still feel like it should be still morning, but technically, if we want to look at the clock, we have lapsed into the PM hours.
And we start at the tippy top of the middle of the work week.
That's
and
right.
That's kind of a special place.
So after we get done with this show, we're racing towards the weekend, y'all.
There it
That's
is.
how it goes. That's just how it goes. Hey, Joey, how was your week, man? Did you do anything fun and exciting?
Always, because there's always a party going on in my head. But, yeah, it's been great. I think today's show on Midpoint with Shelley Reback was excellent about stress, because I think we're all going through something right now that's pretty intense. And we are in the middle of or approaching a constitutional crisis. And I think a lot of people are very stressed out about that. Imagine being a person who's living solely on your Social Security and you're not sure that it's going to be there for you.
Yeah.
So it's a tough time for folks. And you know, my advice to anybody out there is action is the way that you overcome depression and stress. So you know what? Just don't back away and say I'm checking out. Be involved at whatever you can do, wherever you can do, which is the heart and soul of WMNF. An action-based community.
There you go, Joey. Brought it home right away.
Community,
I like that.
There we go. Yeah.
I like that about you, that you always round it out and bring it back home. And I was going to ask you this morning, are you at fear of being deported? Because apparently, we're there now. You know,
Yes.
you can be hooded, thrown in the black van, put on a C-130, and you end up somewhere in Central America with your head shaved. They don't have to have a reason or an excuse.
It is awful.
Yeah.
It is terrible.
Well, that's probably why we're all kind of on the edge of our
course.
seats wondering. But as Chuck Schumer would have you know, apparently we are not yet in a constitutional crisis, right? The Constitution, we're almost there. It hasn't happened yet. We're just about there, which I say, Chucky, baby, booby, you got to wake up, kid, because we there.
Yeah, listen, Mario, let me just say, as a lay historian who loves studying history, authoritarians always come in with two ways. They either do shock and awe, they come in hard and heavy and fast, or they start changing little things to see how far they can push it before anybody objects, if they object. And then sometimes they use both, and we are in the middle of both.
Agreed. And with that said, we hope that you guys are enjoying your week so far. We hope that this show today, the conversation, will take you maybe a little bit away from some of that stress and angst, because we've got a wonderful guest in studio that we're going to introduce you to now. And as we continue to celebrate, which is our mission here at WMNF, Women's Month. Last week we were celebrating Black History. This month we're celebrating women. We want to thank Angela Birdsong, who was with us 2 weeks ago. Last week, it feels like yesterday. And then it feels like 10 years ago. Last week we had Liz Marcucci with us.
Yes.
It was wonderful. As we continue today, here we're going to celebrate another great woman.
Another woman in our
the Bay
community
Area.
that's doing amazing things and is an amazing person. And by the way,
Bring it
I just
home
want
for
to
us,
say,
Joey.
I want to say that I started thinking about this. I bet you if we go back through the run of all of our guests, we've had more women than men on our show. I'm confident that's true.
I won't disagree with you, partner.
And I think that's there must be some reason for that.
Because I feel like it's their time. I feel like we missed a golden opportunity to turn things around and push things in the right direction, or according to us anyway, in our humble opinions. And here we are with major setback. So,
Right.
yes, let's lean into Women's Month. Let's lean into celebrations.
Absolutely.
And today is no exception.
Yes.
So who's with us today,
So
Joey?
we have with us the delightful Jennifer Chanley today.
Hello.
Hi,
Good afternoon.
Jennifer.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So what we do here, Jennifer, is, as you probably know, we explore personal narratives, and that way members of the community connect with members of the community.
Yeah.
And connection is everything. So let's talk just very briefly about sort of where you started in life.
Oh, gosh. You'll have to be more specific than that.
Well, where were
In
you
art?
born and where
Where
did you
were
grow
you?
up? There you go. Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning.
I'm born and raised in St. Petersburg, second gen. Yeah.
Come on, Berg.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's a burger.
Yes, a burger.
I
a
love
burger.
it. Love it.
And so were your parents or grandparents from somewhere else, or you were a native that goes back a ways?
Not that far. So my dad was born at Bayfront, where I was as well. My mom, born in Pittsburgh, but shortly after, like a year old, they moved down here. And my father's family moved from Tennessee. So.
Oh, interesting.
And I do have some Portuguese migration, and
Have you done
I'm
some
a mutt.
DNA? Have you done some
Yeah. Oh, gosh,
Ancestry.com?
I'm Greek, Baltic,
Isn't that fun?
Ashkenazi,
Wow.
but pretty much European.
Wow. That's a mixture.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, we
Yeah.
all are. You know, I mean,
Well, of
we're
course, we
mutts.
all are.
We're all mutts.
But-
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So, so you grew up in St. Pete, went to school at.
All over. So that's where that's why I'm like, wow, you really want to know where I am? I was a transplant child from one family to the next in my own family, and I learned a lot from everyone. But there was a lot of struggles. I was a little bit in Southside St. Pete and a little bit of Lauman, so lower incomes, having to join together with other families and other children who were a little bit displaced. It's kind of where my narrative starts, with exploring art through psychology to kind of inspire yourself, but then through that I've learned that I can inspire others through learning about my hardships.
And your art
Excellent.
is spectacular, by the
thank
way.
you.
Did you realize early on in the dynamics of growing up in a family such as yours that that there was a struggle afoot? Because sometimes you might not necessarily be.
No, it wasn't till I was probably a teenager, and my mother's watching Jerry Springer, and I'm wanting to watch Oprah. And it was in those moments I was like, wait a minute, what are these families doing? And that was when I was like, oh, there's a whole nother world out there. And that was when I strived to just do better and to be
Interesting.
better and then inspire others in my neighborhood, like to show them that there was more out there than what we were living.
Right.
Which is when you come across the narrative of people that are scared to get out of their surroundings. And yeah.
And there has to be a path out, and it can take different processes, and the creative process is
Certainly one.
Is
Oh,
one.
yes. Yeah.
And I'm an artist, and I know that what makes oftentimes a person who is an artist is that you want to get down to some core truth about life. That's what artists really are doing.
I think if you're a good artist, you end up doing that by accident. Like if you don't
Right.
hold to this idea of a style, or if it's not a monetary thing, by doing art and doing it all the time, you just tend to learn how to put a little bit more of yourself. So my art, I didn't have an idea, this is what I'm going to do. It was more, I did art, and then I'm looking at it and I go, why did I do that? And it tells me the story of myself. And then by doing that, other people come and then they see it and they go, that's that connection between each other. They're like, oh, I get this. And it's
Yeah.
a different storyline for them, but it's still there because we all
A
struggle.
lot of times, Joey, have you noticed? Excuse me. A lot of times, when we bring our guests in and we put them on the figurative couch, as we like to describe it,
Right.
and we start to kind of delve into early life situations, and then things get disclosed to us, more times than not, and it happened last week with Liz, it's not so much the how that gets discussed, but the why. And a lot of our guests that we interview share the same empathetic gene that Joe and I do. Artists always do. And then they have it in spades. But it's always about the why, man. It's always why. Why did I do that? Why is that happening? Why is this the way that turned out? And I just find that very fascinating. And you just, at the top of the show, not even 15 minutes in, alluded to it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
There it is. Yeah. So we had not even revealed that you're an artist. You are a painter, among other things, and your art is really quite amazing,
Spectacular.
And so all of that is great. Now, having said that, before we get there though, and I'm sensing trauma in that childhood, and you're free here in the confines of our safe space to discuss that. So
Nobody's listening.
My point is, what happened after the teen? You sort of inferred that you started
Oprah
to feel
Springer.
this. Yeah, what happened in the teenage years, and where did you end up after that?
Well, I just knew that, well, gosh, it didn't really just start getting better. I just knew that things weren't what they should be. But I was still a young girl that was looking for a home, basically. So I went after maybe a not so healthy relationship, but I was like, what's the goal? Oh, the cover
Get
of
out of here.
Parenting magazine, family, children, those people are happy. I went after that goal. And I love my children, but I started very young. My first kid I had at 18, and we were on the road, and it was a struggle, but they saved my life, because then I wasn't just living for me, I was living for them.
And on the road means what?
Oh, well, just, having to find a place to stay, and, we would lose a place, and I was, with this partner that was toxic, kind of ruins things, but I don't want to talk about that too much.
Okay.
But not that it's sensitive. It's just that I know that we could talk about so much more, because I don't want to be the struggle. I don't want it to be I'm a victim. It's about
the success
surviving.
after, the surviving.
And that's the narrative,
There you
because
go.
we all struggle. And if you know the details, it really doesn't. The details don't matter. It's about you got through it, and here's how we do it, and that's what I want the art to be.
Absolutely. Keep in mind that anybody else out there who struggled will relate to your struggles
Exactly.
if you describe them. So we needed to get through some of that first.
Oh, for sure.
And so at what point then did you really, aside from this conceptual idea that you were sort of seeing yourself as different,
Yeah.
when did you start to see yourself as someone that might make things or paint things or draw things?
Oh, gosh, that didn't come until about 13 years ago. But, I mean, I will talk a little bit about my struggles, but not so much about the individuals. I did end up leaving that very toxic relationship, and I can't help but thank CASA, the domestic violence shelter in St. Pete, because at 20, I was that pregnant, 2 kids, just bags of clothes, just needing anything to get away.
Wow.
And it was really the women there that I heard their stories. And I had it hard, but not as hard as it could have been. I was alive. I didn't have scars and bruises. And there were people there that, I can't believe, they pulled themselves out of these scenarios, and they gave me strength. And I was like, if they're doing this, I can do this.
Yes.
And CASA was really wonderful about their outreach and women's support. We went to an art show, and the woman that was doing
Let's
the
do a
art
bell
show...
for CASA.
Oh, yes.
There we go. Thank you.
There was an art show, and the woman, her art was displaying about a rebirth and love. And it's hard to think of love after being so hurt. And I was like, wow, art is very powerful. And I've always done art. Like, my parents were very supportive. Art runs in both sides, but it was never like a thing you do. It's just who you are. It's what we...
It's part of our family.
It's part of everything.
Right.
But it was something I always continued to do, and it wasn't till I started to draw and explore my artistic talent, and then other people were coming to me, and they saw these women's faces that I was painting, and they're like, wow, she looks so strong. Oh, she looks so powerful. And what I was doing is I was painting pictures that I wish I was. I wanted to be strong, or how I wanted to emulate women and the strength. And that's kind of what started that journey.
Wow.
And then
Interesting.
it got deeper with the narratives, because when you are able to do art and people, you start to be in the public, you have a responsibility to kind of like go, I have an ability to say something here. And that's when it got a little bit more deep.
Right.
And I wanted my art to speak for itself. I didn't want to be, again, like, oh, her art is great because she's a victim. I didn't tell anybody about that stuff. I wanted people to go, wow, that art is wonderful. And now that I'm secure, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. So
Right.
now I'll tell you.
Yeah, I get
But
it.
it took a minute to get there.
Yes.
That doesn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. And I have like a mountain of trauma in my childhood, and I know how that works. And I know how you evolve to the place where you ultimately might be able to forgive those people or forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And then you start to become free and realize that this is all a big gift. Yeah, absolutely. So we've gotten right into your image making, but let's talk a little bit about that. I've noticed in looking at your work, which I did online, I've not seen any of it in person, but that there is a lot of this imagery of women.
Yes.
And oftentimes these women might be you.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that.
It's funny because I laugh because I recently got a couple years ago I was granted a studio over at the Arts Exchange, which is a hard place to get into. It's subsidized. It's a nonprofit institution. Without it, I wouldn't have a studio.
Big feather in your cap.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. They're wonderful people over
cool
there.
Place,
the outreach is great.
Yeah.
But it was there that I realized that there was all these paintings, and they all are pictures of me, and that's just because I was the only available art model. Like, I needed a model, and I was like, I couldn't go get anybody, but I look like a narcissist surrounded by a bunch of pictures of myself.
Well, wait a minute though. A narcissist or someone who is
they weren't
exploring
meant to be,
self in a way, because I think
do have a series of self-portraits, and it was called Cathartic. And
yes.
Those pieces, I will say, those are self-portraits because they're of me, they're by me, like of my story, and I would love for people to go on the website and check it out. But it's done in menstrual blood, so it was even an empowerment of myself.
Whoa! Yes! Wow!
Let's not bury the lead there.
Yeah. So, by the way, that's
Can you give the website to us?
yeah.
It's
Presently?
JENIPHER, Jennifer, and my last name, Chandley, CHANDLEY.com.
There you go.
And so, folks, Jennifer is spelled with one N when you go to that webpage.
Yeah, and an
IPH.
IPH.
Jennifer, yeah.
Jennifer. And
Like that. Very artistic.
I'll go with Jennifer Chandley.
Oh, I love it.
So, I personally cannot just, I need some help to get past dealing with that. Not just menstrual blood, but just like using some part of your body.
Yeah, well,
There you go.
it
An
was
extension of
perfect
self.
'cause
An extension of self.
It was a perfect, culmination of all of these elements because this was the series that I did to really break through, not just going, okay, I got over some stuff, I'll paint some pictures of some strong women. This was the one that I was like, what am I doing? Why was I picking these people and, delving into my childhood abandonment issues or whatever? My parents, they're great, but, stuff, happens. And
They make mistakes, don't they, sometimes?
well, they're people.
Still with us?
They're
They're
just
human.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Parents
they
still-
are still here.
Yeah.
And the relationship that we have, whatever it is, coming to terms with, they are just individuals. They did the best they could. Circumstances.
With their own stories.
Right.
Yeah. So when I say childhood abandonment issues, I don't want to think that my parents were just, threw me to the side. We just had issues.
Right. I get that completely. Yeah.
So it was through these traumas that I was picking individuals that are also emotionally unavailable. And I had going through that domestic violence trauma 25 years ago and then finding myself in another relationship later that I was like, why did I do this? So it was through looking at, being the child again and discovering what it was I was doing. It was just so emotionally monumental for my growth that I did a series of pieces, and it was me in these poses, in my face, and it was depicting these feelings in a visual sense. But then the menstrual blood, it says so much more. It's a part of me, but also that angst that people have with femininity and even in menstrual. It's like, this is the thing that gives life. Why would we have such a taboo? So that's part of the art, it's all of it.
Obviously, Jennifer, you have not seen Handmaid's Tale. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. Obviously, you have not seen that horrific television show series that sets everybody on their
No,
ear.
I actually don't watch too much TV.
Yeah,
I
no,
try to
and-
disconnect as much
And you
as
definitely don't want to watch this one because, again, in keeping with the theme of this month here, WMNF, we are celebrating women. And Joe and I both came from families with strong maternal figures, right? Whether it was our grandmothers or our moms.
Yes.
In some cases it could be a tia, an aunt. But women have always played very special roles in both of our lives. Probably why we're such good pals, because we get that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
why doesn't the rest of the world
Why
get
doesn't
that?
the world get it?
You
Yeah.
know, what is this thing, man? What
Yeah.
is this thing?
I think
that-
it's just education. I think when they haven't been posed a question that makes them think about something, then they get stuck in the past. It's not, I'll tell you, growing up in low income, I was a handful of a child. And my mindset and the things that I thought, it was just because the people around me thought those negative things too. And it wasn't until I started to pose the question, why would I think this? Then I started to change it. And I think people just haven't been asked those right questions.
Also, another thing is that I realize now at this tender age that the issues of men in our culture And there's obviously so much made about toxic masculinity. You mentioned a toxic relationship. The thing is, sadly, toxic men tend to beget toxic sons. That's hard to say because they just tend to, and they pass on all those ideas about women and the world.
Well, yes, but when we think of toxic masculinity, I'd like to just put it out there that it should just be called toxicity because we have men and women
that are toxic.
That are both toxic.
Absolutely. And it's sometimes, and so in the domestic violence in CASA, we were taught things like that to reframe and not see the person that victimized us so much as like this person that was hurt, because that's the draw. We're the helpers. We love so unconditionally that we're going to stay with this person that's abusing us and their mindset. And more often than not, it was because their mother didn't give them the consequences. So it's their lack of understanding consequence for their actions.
Right.
But it's like this generational trauma of, the mother doesn't give the son the punishments, and then the son of his, it's just different mindsets.
It's cyclical, of course.
Yeah.
Generational and cyclical. Also, too, another point in this topic is that people who grow up in a house filled with love, whatever that means, is different than people who grow up in a house where you're surviving.
I think it's respect and disrespect. A
Yes.
house that's built with respect. And
Yes.
that's love. When you love someone, you show them respect.
Right, exactly.
And then there's homes that you're like, I can't believe that they would fight amongst each other and like vindictively try to sabotage one another. That's not family, and it's disrespect. And I think when we make it simple like that, it's a little bit more easy to understand.
Great perspective. So let's go back in your history.
Okay.
You're starting to make artwork
Yes.
because you were affected by the art that you saw at CASA, correct? Yes.
So it was many years later. I ended up, and again, from CASA, I went to the transitional living over at Haven in Clearwater, thankfully to them too. That's a 2-year program where they continue to try to take these women and kind of give them a footing so that they can be on their own. They give them the strength to not just go back to the same old habits of looking for someone to fix, really. And to know that they can do it on their own. Women, it's hard for them, one, to support one another, but then to think that that they can do it.
Just the confidence, the confidence factor. I can
and
do
then
this.
The struggle of, because most of us, we all had children at in these places, and I was just 21 at this point.
With 2 at that time?
Yeah, 2, and
Wow.
and then I was pregnant, so I had my youngest son at the Haven. And then, so it was there. Then I got stuck in, all right, I'm a mom. I went and I got my GED and I was doing everything I needed to, and I got a job and I got an apartment after that, so I was just in mom mode. And art was never, I heard starving artist. So art was not the career. That was like just the thing I do. It's for fun. I actually was a
But you were doing it.
Yeah, but for fun.
But it was just something you did here and there.
Nothing for other people. Maybe a gift here or there. I ended up just being a screen printer, which is still in the art field.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
I was doing T-shirts, but I was like the muscle. Like I'm the manual printer. I'm on an auto machine, and I was doing all that stuff because
you're sweating in the warehouse.
Oh my God.
You're not drawing.
I don't miss it.
Right.
Yeah, I did that for at least 18 years, and it wasn't till I guess it's been about 8 years now. I'm doing it full time as an artist. But so the art scene about 13 years ago in St. Pete is when I just needed a change. One, the economy had kind of took a crash. I had gone to college for graphic design and interior design. I got 2 degrees for that because the graphic design helped me with the screen printing. But with the economy, then it was like all the jobs were gone. Hardship happened. My dad, he's still alive, but he had a heart attack. So
Kids are getting older.
We were taking care of them. And then it was like, I was almost on the corner with a sign that said, we were about to lose our house. So it was like, I need to do something. What can I do? And art, that's just there. I could do that anytime. So I'm in the alleys and I'm looking for scrap pieces of wood with buddies of mine. And we're painting on the streets. And the people downtown back in St. Pete, 13 years ago, 2011, the buildings were still boarded up, so there wasn't a lot going on. So we're out with these young kids doing live painting, and everybody's coming out and they're checking it out.
So you're kind of going guerrilla in a way.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, and then we were like, we weren't good enough to be in the galleries, so nobody would have us. So the bars, however, they were like, oh yeah, they loved us coming
Bohemian,
out.
come on in.
So we would throw these parties, and it was awesome. We would do videos, and it just became this really big thing. So down in St. Pete on Central, we called it 600 block, but it's like 500, 600 block. It's a big art scene, and it really fueled, everything started to happen. Then arts really started to kick up. And I think it really was because of all of us coming together. We all needed each other. And it was me doing that and needing to get out of the house and meet friends and meet positive people. Absolutely.
Community.
That was the big...
Essentially,
Joey, that was the big bang, as it were, for St. Pete and the art scene. Maybe that's what just got it over the hump and brought it into everybody's consciousness. Hey, this might be a good time for us to once again let you know who we are. And how do we do that?
Hi, I'm Liz Marcucci, and you're listening to The Conversation with Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter on WMNF 88.5 FM, Tampa.
If you'd like to join us here on The Conversation, please, if you have a question for Jennifer, if you wanted to share maybe some of your insight, if you have a story you'd like to share with us as it relates to the story we're telling here today, call us 813-239-9663. Send us a text 813-433-0885. You can always send us an email, dj@wmnf.org. We'd love to hear from you.
By the way, community and art, that's an interesting concept. I have I happen to have an art history degree, and it's very funny. You said very often you see these shows that are put together in bars, and when you look at the era of the French Impressionists, they were doing these hangings from floor to ceiling in salons where they were drinking wine, Parisian salons. They're basically showing their art in bars. I mean, it's not a new thing, but the other thing about art history that tells us is that these movements, we call them movements, the abstract movement or the pop movement, but it's really a kind of community that is put together or comes together, one or the other. And community, I think, is really important in the arts in a lot of ways, and particularly visual arts, and it's very strong in St. Pete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, St. Pete has... we were joking, calling it the next Dada, and I was like, well, the fall of the Dada was because people were sleeping with everybody, and then they all got in arguments. So I was like, please don't let us do that. But I will say, I think something happened special in St. Pete where we supported one another, and I think that's hard to come by, and especially in the art scenes where people will go head to head.
Yes.
But we were like, no, we are just different candy makers here. Like, everybody support one another.
Everybody's making candy.
My art has nothing to do with your art. Galleries and even patrons, they're going to like what they like. If the more that we support one another, and I think that dopamine hit that we would get from helping one another is what kept it going. And every time there's like these negative people, there's so much positivity. When the negative people come in that want to like be the wolves and take advantage of people, they don't last long.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it. They don't.
The art scene is the last place in the world to be a competitive person.
Yeah.
It's great for sports apparently, but it is not. It does not work in an art scene.
Why'd you point at me, Joey?
You're not going there to see if you can one up somebody.
Right.
That's not what's happening.
No, and like I said, when starting down at the bars, it was back. I want to give Sake Bomb. They're not there anymore. The name or the bar shifted over to Bar 548. But Sake Bomb was where we started doing the live painting out in the streets and then putting up the shows. And then from there, it went right into the next bar, Bar 548, which I've been a part of showing shows down there for now 13, 14 years.
Wow.
And I curate for free any artist that ever wants to show there. There's no jurors. There's nothing. You want to show your art at Bar 548, we hang it for free, then there's no commissions. And that's every first Saturday.
Wow.
I switch out the show. And I've been doing that for 4 years now by myself. But the shows have been going on for 13, 14 years.
So those artists who sell get 100% of
Absolutely, yeah. Because that's where I got my start, and I want other people to have that opportunity as well, especially as downtown's growing. There's nowhere for any artist really to show. And everybody that has a place, most often they're like taking commissions or they're trying to get what they can get from it. And it's like, no.
Joe, would it be safe to say at this point that as we learn more and more about Jennifer, that it would be kind of appropriate to add that if the world had just a few more Jennifer Chamlings, maybe we would be in better shape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the early stuff because that was hard.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it was.
But you got to go through that to get to where you are.
It made me an empathetic person,
There you go.
and the ability to connect with other people, which is why I keep that going.
Yes. Yeah, I think that, by the way, on that subject, I read not only, I went to the interview, there's an online interview of you with, I can't remember what that magazine is, but...
The Artisan.
Is it The Artisan?
Mm-hmm.
And in that interview, you talked a little bit about how, which I think all humans eventually come to if they're paying any attention, is that
That's the key.
is that the
Are you paying attention?
are you
pal?
paying attention? Is how these negatives become your gifts,
Right.
how we grow from that. If we lived in a perfect reality that some people want to live in, apparently, you would never grow, would you? I mean, you wouldn't, because there's nothing to stimulate growth. So it's those of us who, in a strange way, were fortunate enough to have trauma end up somehow benefiting from that. It's very interesting. It's almost like it's just a system that seems to be in place. But I noticed that you said, you were talking about how there was a line here that said, I believe that those who have hurt me the most have been my biggest challenges in building and overcoming obstacles.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you've been saying. And
It's hard to say. I never wanted to say, well, thank you for hurting me.
Well, of course not. Of course not.
But in a way, it's like, but that is me. That is a part of me, and I have to be thankful. It's hard to say that like that.
Yeah.
I think it's
I don't think thankful is the word.
I think I should say to myself,
Appreciative, maybe?
you did a good job and for getting through it. At least, like looking for the positives. I got to just, you always have to look for the positives.
Well, the way I see it, this is how I personally see it is, thank you for the gift you gave me. I forgive you for the mistakes you made.
Yeah.
And that's that. Because nobody's evil. Even those people we think are evil, they're just
still
people
doing
that are
it.
messed up. Yeah, they're just damaged.
Usually it's low self-esteem and just
Yeah.
a hurt child
Right,
locked in an
right.
adult body.
And I
Man,
think
are there a lot of them walking around today? I'm
Yeah.
just going to say that right now.
I think that also your story, if I may say, that story that you've been relating to us is a story that could have gone in a much different direction.
Much
You
darker.
could have, you could have not been someone who became involved in women's or trauma issues or women's issues or mother issues or all of that you're kind of connected to, that is feeding your art as well as everything else. I mean, I think,
And I have to keep going with that. Like when I was with CASA, I hadn't had really good relationships with other women. It was almost like you don't support one another. And I was thinking about that, where I think in lower income situations, the women don't necessarily support one another because they're scared if they do, then the other one might get something. They might get the
survival.
nice,
It's survival
the
of the
nice
fittest.
guy that's going to take care of them.
There you
That
go.
was what I was always told. Oh,
Sure.
find a good guy. And I'm like, why don't you just tell me to find myself, But, so I had to struggle.
That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Find a good guy. Why don't you just tell me to find myself? There
I'm
you go.
writing that down as we speak.
So
I know a good printer.
I knew yeah, I know, right? I wasn't really good with other women, so I purposefully set out to learn how to have those relationships when I was 21.
Hey, listen,
yeah.
we've got a caller,
Oh, good.
and I'd like to honor him for waiting for the time that he's been waiting. Jim, you're on the air. What say you, good sir?
Well, thank you for having me. Just a discussion relating to art in St. Petersburg and kind of when it took off. And I had the privilege of being on city council for over 10 years. And early on, we did a economic analysis of what the arts contributes back to the community and measuring how much people spend in our community when they come to a baseball game versus when they come to go to our museums or look at the local artwork and starting up the arts district and such along those lines. But really the economics of people that visit our city for the arts, I believe the number was that they spent between 10 to 20 times more money on where they stayed, where they ate, and all the other collateral expenses that they enjoyed when they were at the city. So that was something that helped City Council justify getting behind the arts and supporting everything from the point of view it really does have an economic effect.
Yes. So, Jim, those are excellent points. And we have a situation in which we know that for every dollar spent on the arts, we get $3 to $4 in return. So, we should be funding the arts at a significant level over these other activities.
And, obviously I'm speaking from quite a few years ago. I think my last year on there was 2018. But,
well, that's pretty current.
18?
2018, that's not too far away.
Yeah.
So, but City Council, I think, was very supportive of the arts.
Yes, absolutely.
In that regard. Not only for the intangibles it gave to the city, but what could actually be measured.
Yeah, they were doing a lot of outreach, especially with mural programs, trying to beautify certain areas by using artwork to, inspire the youth around them.
Jim, thank you so much for your call, and thank you for your service to your community. St. Pete, forevermore, will be our very cool and artistic brother and or sister on the other side of the bay, because, Tampa's got a different vibe, but St. Pete has got it going on. I'm just going to say it right now. I'll go online and saying that.
All right. Well, thank you. And 88.5, keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much. That's Jim Kennedy, everybody, former St. Pete City Council member.
There you go. Do you have any other response to that, Jennifer, about what he said?
Well, I do remember the city kind of saw that we were doing a lot of good for the community. There was even a time where I spoke with City Council about we had murals that were going up, and they were approved by the owners of the buildings and things like that, but we had a headbutt with code enforcement who was coming around saying that they were graffiti. And I had an argument with this code enforcement, and I said, look, you need to be talking to City Council because I think they want this art. I had a piece of artwork that was out, and he wouldn't even hear it. And he had his bucket of gray.
Yeah.
His name is Charlie. And I said, Charlie, don't surf. And I remember I was like, look, just wait. I'm going to go down. The city council's just down the road, the city building. So for code enforcement.
Right.
I ran down to code enforcement. And I went in there and I'm like, who's code for who's, covering up murals? It's like the secret off building. It wasn't even a thing, so nobody could give me any answers, and I ran back over there, and I remember he looked at me, he saw me running through the alley, and he looks at me and he just pours the paint. I was like, this is ridiculous. So I even was going to do a thing where I did pink boxes, because then I videotaped Charlie covering up my pink boxes with his gray boxes.
Nice.
The gray boxes aren't any better. It's not even better.
It's a box,
so
Charlie. It's a box.
I got to speak with City Council, and forgive me for not remembering who was in charge of the arts district or the art program at the time, but I spoke with a city council member and they even agreed that, look, Charlie doesn't have an art degree. He shouldn't be allowed to say whether or not this is art or graffiti. So then from that point on, Charlie needed to take a photo, and then it needed to be brought to the board and them decide whether or not this was graffiti.
Excellent.
And then city was even going to offer some of the people that had been charged with graffiti that they would take their files, they would make prints, and they would do an art gallery showing to cover the cost of their fines and to annul it. And I thought that was just outstanding. And then even the codes changed after that, because we had buildings that showed the old signage, and in code you can't write words. And they changed things so that we could beautify buildings and it say positive things, and and then Shine was kicking off, which is our mural festival, and then I think the city backed even that, and it's just become
Shine's still going on?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do we have a date for Shine?
I would not know.
Okay.
I think we just finished up Shine. I feel like it was in November. Don't quote me on that.
It's a fall activity versus a spring.
But definitely look it at Shine. I'm not sure if it's shine.com, but you can Google Shine St. Pete Festival. It'll pop up. I actually have a mural there too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We just finished 10 years. 10 years of Shine.
See,
Wow.
this is what St. Pete has been doing.
Yeah.
Well, Tampa's been trying to figure it out.
I know.
St. Pete's always
Tampa
been just
will
plodding
even invite
along,
us
man.
over, and we'll go meet at the Tampa Museum, and we're trying to give them information. And I think sometimes it's just about giving a space for constant. Giving a hub, even the museum. Like, I'm not sure if the museum can do it, but a space where artists can meet. And if you have that constant enough, then the camaraderie comes. It's just because things fade in and out too frequently. Artists, when they're new, they start to get better, and then they get too busy. You need something that keeps it going,
Yes.
which is why I still keep.
And it's
doing
also
things.
many art forms, unless it's performance art like dance or music or something, it's a singular activity. It's a alone activity, and writers and painters sometimes get used to, like, I'm kind of tucked away over here, and I had a professor in college who said the ultimate artist would like to have a garage door where they make their art, they push it out that garage door, and a week later a check comes back. And I'm not sure that's true, but the point is that you have to work on community. You have to be that kind of person that works on community. By the way, the Tampa art scene is different than the St. Pete art scene, but Tampa has done a much better job at getting murals out. We're getting a lot of murals now.
Yes.
And I work with the chamber.
Which is exciting.
I work with the chamber in Ybor City, and as a tourism consultant. And one of the things that I have come to realize is that there are people who travel the country doing mural tours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean they go to a city, they try to find out where all the murals are, and they go look at all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so Tampa's kind of come up a little bit in that. We're both friends with Michelle Sawyer, who is
Wonderful young artist.
a wonderful artist, and I would love to see these two. I would love to see you and her work on a project
They
together.
kind of-
by the way.
they-
There's something similar about
Yeah,
them.
that's what I
see
was gonna
that.
say.
I see
They give
that.
off the same vibe.
Same kind of energy. Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. Now, so you have murals up too, obviously as well.
Yeah, I have a couple. Mainly, Shine. I was honored to be asked to do one. I don't normally do them, but they definitely pay the bills. So when they come my way, most of the times I'm doing them for schools. So it's like, yes, I will totally beautify a school. That's worth it. But I have to be like vigilant and focus on my goal, and that's like my fine art, to get to galleries and get patrons and get money.
The root of all evil, but in this case, the root of all good.
Well, it keeps me going. It keeps me doing it.
It keeps you
Absolutely.
going, and it's also, I think, what something an artist comes to the realization of is that if you are, you probably, how do I say this? I had a friend who one time went to New York, and he got shot down pretty hard. That's a hard place.
Oh, yeah.
That's to go to New York City. This is many years ago, but they'll cut you up like razor blades.
Absolutely.
There.
I've had 3 shows now in New York. My last show was a judge show where I got 3rd place.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Good
I'm
for
really
you.
honored with that. So I do want to say that was with the National Association of Women Artists, which is celebrating, I believe, its 186th year this year. They're an absolutely wonderful
And
organization.
how did I saw that online, and it intrigued me. How did you come to be involved in that situation?
It's a small world. So my studio mate across the hall from me, her name is Denise. She is the Florida chapter president for NAWA. And she said, I love your work. You got to do this. And I said, that was another moment I was like, yes, I need to do something with women. I'm not a member of too many. The Portrait Society of America, we have the Maury, and I have a few that I'm like, these are things important for me. So I was like, this is a group that I can be a part of something bigger. And if I'm going to do this, this is the one I want to do it with. So I was really fortunate to get accepted. And then, luckily, you get some shows in New York when you're a national member, and I'm a Florida chapter member too. So I will say we don't have too many chapters out there. So I encourage women to definitely
In the
look
state
at
of
that.
Florida, we don't have too many chapters.
Well, we have one in Florida, but the NAWA doesn't have many chapters in general.
Gotcha.
For the
Throughout the
nation.
country, yeah.
National.
So.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got another call, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Can we take that call? And let's see what Simon, who calls us frequently in Lakeland, what Simon may have to say. Hey, Simon, thanks for calling.
Hi, how you doing? I sculpt bronze, and I was fortunate enough to be in the Art Basel
Oh, yeah.
week of the show. I was in Miami Spectrum one year, and then the other year I was in Red Dot. I've got many artist friends.
Oh, I thought you were. Okay.
I worked it.
They, with all due respect, they won't apply to Gasparilla recently because they're knowledgeable about the judges, and they knew who the judges were going to pick. And with all due respect, it was more, I'll be kind, more of a DEI selection of who won Best of Show and what have you. And art is very subjective. Art is speech. So how does the art of speech come out? You know, people would look at Trump as being Francis Bacon rather than Kamala Harris was Rothko. How do you get involved and get away from the nuances of how you pick some of the artists that you want to show?
Great question, Simon. We'll ask our guest. And thank you, as always, for your insightful commentary. How do you do that?
How do I pick artists?
Or how is it done? What's the criteria?
You said that you were curating. I know that you said that anybody could be there.
Absolutely. I don't pick.
You don't pick?
No. If you want to be in it, you're in it. That's how it goes. Because my subjective... what
criteria
I
is different from everybody. That's
Absolutely.
Right. That's
and especially in a bar, you never know what you're going to get. And I want to offer everybody a chance, to have the voice. And I think that even if an artist is very novice and their work isn't very tight, being around other inspirational artists and having their work up and seeing other artists, I think that is where the growth starts.
That's the inspiring part.
Yeah. When I had my art, it was novice. It wasn't that great, but look where I am now. And I wouldn't be there if I wasn't surrounded by other hardworking artists. You learn from one another, and it pushes you. If my art's not selling, well, obviously I need to do something about that. So make it better.
Right.
Sometimes people need to be hard on themselves. It's not about there's not any buyers or there's nobody doing this. Look, if you're not getting into things and you're getting a lot of pushback, maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing. We're businesses here. So if a carpenter's not really good at his job, he's not going to get any business. I need to be a better carpenter.
Or find a new business.
Yes.
Because that's always the opportunity as well.
I'm not singing, so.
It's also hard, too, if you're making art and you're not academically trained at all. You started making art.
I'm self-taught.
Yeah, you're self-taught. And trying to find opportunities to show, because you can make art all day long in your studio, but if you never show it to anybody. So that's what I admire about that situation.
If you want to make art your career, then you got to show it.
That's right.
And because if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound? I don't know, but perhaps our next caller, Nick, will have something to say about that. Nick, thanks for calling. You're in Tampa. What say you?
How's it going, Mario? It's always wonderful to hear you all. And
thank you
for supporting and advocating arts all the time. In regards to the last caller, I think that if there's a way to showcase that art has a certain, can be blind, if we're able to look at art from a blind viewpoint instead of looking at it from, sadly different kind of protocols that are making it so that there is more inclusion, which I'm all for, I think that there would be a nice equality where everyone's able to have sort of submitting their art to a larger factor of getting it out there without it being against certain guidelines from any kind of administration. And like you were just mentioning, too, I think that if artists don't share their art, a good colleague of mine that I make a lot of music with said, it's a sin. If you're not sharing it, it's not going to get out there, and people can't change their life from it. So I think if there's a way to have artists of all types of medium able to collaborate in an effective place, like they were mentioning, and having something at the museum, if there's more engagement and more places for these folks to create that camaraderie and create a calendar of things, I think more people who are not artists who go out and seek that kind of, creativity, if they can see where it's at and they can find out where to get to it, people have different schedules. Everyone's on a completely different clock most of the time. So if there's an opportunity for Tampa, and I'm working on a project that will hopefully support that, but to create a calendar that's seasonal and showcasing of all sorts of different art forms. And myself as a musician and a gardener, I produce art and organics through sustainability. So I'm constantly with the season and trying to find ways of integrating folks in the community around that. So I think if more folks can look at it from that ideal, I think that it'll not just be more accessible, but it'll be much more valuable. Because in the other comment y'all made, which I love, is that you're absolutely right. I feel like the arts as a whole of all the different mediums are creating such a larger economic output versus going to something like a sports game simply because I think there's more opportunity to go to different things. When you're at a stadium, you're just there, and there's no, moving to different parts of the city or different parts of the district. So having bolstered and economic support for the arts in my personal quest for life, absolutely essential.
Nick, what an insightful call, my brother. What a
Excellent.
wonderful way to come to the
Observation,
close
Nick.
of our show. Thank you so much for calling.
Yes.
We do appreciate your call.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me also say this to dovetail in on what Nick was saying. When you go to a sporting event, not only is the economic impact certainly less, but you always have that tension of being a Yankee fan sitting next to a Boston Red Sox fan and a fight breaking out, right? Because, that's going to happen. I don't know. I can't think of one time that you go to an art display where you're sitting in front of a beautiful painting and a fight breaks out because the guy next to you doesn't like that painting.
I think Jennifer.
Nick, am I close, Nick? Am I close?
I don't know. I can tell you a few times that's probably happened.
Oh, really?
If you mix in a little alcohol, perhaps some of that stuff might happen.
I've
Get out of the bars, y'all. Get out of the bars.
Yeah, we've had to, I won't get into that story, but to make a point on, he was talking about starting something where artists feel that they can go to things. Like, I will say, be the change. If you want to see more art and you want an arts community and you can't find it, start going out. I will say with the 13, 14 years that we've been doing art out there, we've also had an every week Wednesday night art meetup. Whether you're doing art or, you're just there, and that's all kinds of artists. You're musicians, poets, or people that just want to be around artists. We've been doing it every Wednesday for that long. And I will say that is probably one of the reasons that it's kept going in the art scene. The bar, they love it. They'll give you drink discounts. The artists will be out there,
Traffic is traffic.
Yeah.
In
Excellent.
keeping with what you just said, we're hearing it more and more. This is creeping into our vernaculars. Women especially have to say that, look, if there's no seat for you at the table, build your own table.
Absolutely.
Make your own table. Create your own table.
There were people that were like, hey, maybe the city can help us with this. Maybe these people can help us with this. I'm like, no, do it yourselves. You can get it together. You bring the group together. You pinch in a little bit of money, and you can rent a space that maybe the building is for sale. Just ask the landlord, hey, can I have it for the weekend? Throw an art party. There's tons of ways of doing this and spurring your own.
People helping each other is always the way to build community.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more powerful. And this kind of goes all the way back to the very beginning conversation about politics. You got to be a part of it. You got to somehow do something that is going to contribute to that moment. You can't just sit around.
Our democracy and our form of government is a full-on participatory sport.
It's what it's supposed to be.
If you're not doing something, then you're probably doing nothing, and that's
right.
not an option. And the same thing in the arts community.
Do what you can. So obviously,
Start where you are.
I'm not big in the politics, but I can do what I can within the field that I'm in,
Yes.
making change where you can.
Yes.
And know that you're doing that, just as long as you're trying for the positive.
Can we
And to
put that on
educate.
a T-shirt too?
Yeah,
I just want to see you
I'm a
print
big
a
T-shirt
T-shirt.
fan. I'm a big T-shirt fan.
Well, listen, that may be overall the reason that our paths crossed today.
Generate
Because
some money, yeah.
man, I have got a lot of ideas for some pretty cool T-shirts.
I have a lot of ideas. If anybody's going to say anything about me, I'm always giving everybody great ideas for them. And we were going to do a tell me kind of group. You know what you should do. That was what it's called. You know what you should do? Because I always can tell somebody else what they should do, but I need somebody to tell me what I should be doing.
Is there anything at this point, Jennifer, with just a couple of minutes left in the show? I can't believe it went that fast. Thank you to our callers today, all of whom were very insightful and thoughtful. That we didn't ask you that you might like to say a shout out or something coming up that's important to you?
If I was going to get to say some advice to some newer artists or people, like, be gentle on yourself. When it comes to art scenes, I've seen so many people come and go within the past 14 years with this art scene, right? So a lot of times people, they meet this new family and they get so involved and these people become their best friends. And then what sometimes ends up happening is that heads start to bud and then everybody thinks that they're outed and then there's like this whole, it's like high school. And I just want to say, look, don't worry about it. Just keep doing what you're doing. Everything settles. You're not losing your art family. It's all still there. Make your goals, look at and just stay focused on that. Don't let other people, you're not, like, if one friend's not a friend, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. This isn't high school. We're adults. We are colleagues. You don't have to like one another. You have to respect one another and just keep going.
Mm-hmm. I would concur and support that advice. Yeah,
Well, we
absolutely.
Listen, we could put that on a T-shirt too. Hey, this ain't high school, y'all. This ain't high school.
Well, you know, as you get older, if you're paying attention again, wisdom comes. And here's one. A lot of things you thought were important aren't important. So, you know, get on with it.
Absolutely. Who's
Yes.
coming up next, Joey?
Oh, well, as always, I'd like to give special thanks to Jessica G., the OG, our board operator. She makes all this happen. And then
Santiago.
also, Santiago has been answering the phones, and he's done some work today, by the way.
Yes, he has.
And then coming up is the amazing Jim Bannon with the Governor of Grooves playing Disc for You today.
Thank you, everybody, for listening today. We'll be here again next week, so stay tuned. The conversation will be at you Wednesday. Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. JenniferChanley.com, everybody.
Yes.
We'll see you next week. This is WMNF Tampa.